Hello, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi,
Good afternoon. You're welcome to this session, this panel session. My name is Oyenike Adeleke, and I'm the moderator for this session. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. So we're going to be having a breakout session and question and answers. I'd like to ask the organizers, should I go ahead? Can I go ahead? Hello? Hello? Please, I'm coming. Let me just confirm a few things. Okay. Please, I would like to find out, is Mr. Gideon Dada here? I have Mr. Gideon. Hello?
I don't think so. His name is not in the participants list.
Okay. Is Mrs. Toyidowu here?
This is Mrs. Toyidowu speaking.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, Ma.
How are you doing?
All right. Is Mr. Olorunfemi Omotayo here? I can see him already.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening.
Good. Mr. Seun Olufolaji is here as well.
Yes, I'm right here.
You're welcome. Yeah, we're welcome. You're welcome. I think we'll just go ahead and would expect that Mr. Gideon will join us later, if that's right. Is that okay?
Yeah,
it's okay.
I think it's okay.
Good afternoon. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much to our panelists for being here. We want to really appreciate you for taking out time to be a part of this. I was excited when I was called to anchor this panel session because I'm happy that I'm a part of history that is about to be made. There's no how we're going to talk about reimagining education in Nigeria, and this particular event will not be brought to notice that something like this happened in 2001, and I am a part of it, and you are a part of it. So I want us to really celebrate ourselves, and I want to appreciate you on behalf of the organizers. So I'll go straight to the questions, and I expect that our followers and our listeners will be able to gain from this panel sessions. I'm going to be directing the questions to our panelists, and I'll be mentioning the name of the person that will be answering different questions. So I'll start with Mrs. Toyidowu. Ma, I would like to ask, how does technology affect a child's education? How does technology affect a child's education? Mr. Toyidowu, over to you, Ma.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening, and well, I welcome everybody to this conference, to this breakout session of this conference, and I thank the organizers for inviting me to be on this panel. The impact of technology on the education of the child, you cannot underestimate it. It's of immense proportions, because let's see, from the time a child starts operating the television in the house, that child is technology. So technology is not until when a child is playing video games and all that. The moment a child can operate a telephone, a television, and what does this do? It makes the child realize that there are faster, easier, and better ways of doing things, one. Secondly, also lets the child know that there are so many resources that are available at the tip of the fingers. So many things can be done using these gadgets and devices. You just need to know the right button to press.
Fantastic.
Technology, yes, it has its good parts and the negative parts to the education of a child. If you look at it, because our children spend so much time with technology, they don't spend too much time personal interaction, going outside, seeing sunlight, exercising their bodies. These have effect. On the mental health, that is another thing entirely. And these are issues that COVID brought up. Because even we as adults, many people put on so much weight during the lockdown.
Definitely.
Imagine when that happens to us as adults, imagine the effect on the children.
On the children.
Fantastic, is a good learning tool, a good learning platform and everything. But the other hand of it has to be properly managed so that the total benefit can be harnessed for the benefit. I hope that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. Like you said, technology starts from the time when a child can control the TV. Try a 3-year-old child now, give your phone to that child, the Android phone. I don't know how they navigate through that phone. I don't know who taught them. But one way or the other, they're able to do that. So technology is important. And I like the fact that you said that it has its good and its bad. So that's left to parents to see how to balance and make sure that we harness the good and we avoid the bad. My next question goes to Mr. Gideon that I'm not sure is here yet. Is Mr. Gideon here, please? Is Mr. Gideon here? Okay, so while we wait for Mr. Gideon, I would like to direct my next question to Mr. Olorunfemi Omotayo. And the question is, how can educators help students to live one integrated life by inviting them to use technology, not only for academics, but within the greater context of community and society? I'll take that again. How can educators help students to live one integrated life by inviting them to use technology, not only for academics, but within the greater context of community and society? Over to you, Mr. Omotayo.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I want to believe you can hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so how can technology help students live an integrated life by inviting them to use technology, not only just for academics, but within the context of community and the society? Now, you see, this is placing emphasis on the teachers now, the educators. What role must they play? Now, the first thing is for you to foster the use of something. You yourself, first and foremost, must understand it and must be good with its usage as well. It's very important that teachers themselves, they must become tech savvy. Whatever you do not know, you cannot teach. A man cannot give what he does not have. So you can only give from the multitude of what you have. So the first thing is that our teachers must become tech savvy. We cannot be in the 21st century and maybe our teachers, we only know them, we only understand the language of the 19th century or at most the 20th century. Definitely there will be a disparity. Definitely there will be a cross, there will be an across purpose. You see, everybody will be going separate ways. That is why today it looks as if we're doing a different thing and we're living in a different world entirely at home or in our communities and wherever the learners find themselves. And then in school, it seems we're living a different world entirely. So number one, teachers must become very tech savvy. Number two, we need to invest so much in teachers' capacity development. We need to keep reskilling and upskilling. Teachers need to, because if they must drive this, they need to acquire the competencies. They need to acquire the skills themselves. Okay, so we need to reskill them. And then we need to upskill from the angle of the way we teach, maybe before, leveraging just rote learning, where we have what we call passive learning taking place, where the child is completely disinterested, removed from even the learning process. We need to upskill our teachers to move beyond that point, where they need to come to a point where they are upskilled enough to be able to leverage some innovative teaching approaches, like leveraging problem-based learning, okay, project-based learning. This is where you now work with learners to solve real-life problems while at the same time learning the required concepts that they need to learn in school. So they cannot take this from school, be able to relate it to what's happening in the society and in the community, and be able to see where all of this actually joins together.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. One of the things that he said that really stuck to me is the fact that our teachers must be tech savvy. And that's a challenge to all teachers. During the pandemic, a lot of schools started training students online. And there are a few times that parents had to complain that listening to the teacher alone was a bit confusing, because the teacher could not even operate the basic gadgets, or some teachers found it difficult to even communicate via Zoom or normal WhatsApp call. Why? Because they are not tech savvy. So this is a challenge to teachers to please upskill and begin to ensure that they add more knowledge to what they have now. Thank you so much for that, sir. My next question goes to Mr. Sheung Olufolaji. You know, the formal digital citizenship programs in Nigeria that deal with character education in the digital age deeply, directly, and comprehensively. Can you share more about the outcomes and how to access them? Over to you, sir, Mr. Olufolaji.
Thank you very much. Actually, the truth of the matter is that really, in the formal setting, doesn't really exist. There's a lot that has been done. In 2017, there was a coming together at the University of Lagos, where Jeff Adeajayi was speaking at that summit that year about the Digital Summit. So it's still actually so much fresh. But when we look at when you are talking about formal, that means you are talking about within the context of the formal education system, within the context of the secondary school, within the context of our universities, the primary schools. The curriculum has not been built to do that deliberately. When you talk about digital, first of all, what is digital citizenship? It's being a citizen, but rather online. Talking about being a good citizen. No. So if you want to understand that, you talk about who is a good citizen of Nigeria. But now we now have a community that has transcended being physical, being within a few meters of yourself, a few kilometers of yourself. And I'm talking about an online community where people from across the world link up together. That's a digital community. And so it needs what you call a digital citizenship. So the understanding of that is crucial for us because you see, part of what happened to us in Nigeria, just like the first speaker was saying, Mr. Soyedo was saying, there's a lot of damage, there's a lot of risk attached to online learning that we need to be aware of and we need to work against. So the matter of digital citizenship is dealing with all these issues. Is teaching people how do you behave online. Now, one of the things I've found out among students at various levels over the years with my interaction with them on the social media and different platforms is that there's a sense that the internet gives the average youth that you can say anything, do anything, you are not physically there to give an account. So gradually, it's beginning to leave what you call a digital footprint on their lifestyle. So gradually, that is transcending from being an online behavior into real life behaviors. And that's what you see is happening with our young people today. Even the manner in which they speak, the words. So somebody's writing an essay, and you will see him using the kind of things he will use on an online chat. So there are those negative effects that the digital citizenship matter training is supposed to be targeted at a deliberate learning. You know, like the guest was speaking in our main room. That's Mr. Oduwale was saying. There's a need to filter. There's a need to decide. There's a need to also educate on how to use the internet, how to use the digital platforms that are available. Because you see, the truth of the matter is when the use of the thing is not known, abuse is inevitable.
Use is inevitable.
I did a lot of homeschooling for my own children before I released them into a formal education setting when I felt, okay, it's a bit safe to do that. And I had to be deliberate with what they did online, what they did with their devices. And it was a lot doctored to give them the kind of environment I think they needed. So the matter of very critical and it's very necessary for us to look at. So it exists within some informal settings, within some private sector, but within the government framework as a teacher, as an education, with the curriculums they're giving us and all that, it is not there. Actually, Nigeria was completely unprepared for the digital age.
For that, yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, sir. That's so enlightening. And for everyone that needs to know more, I'm sure that You've heard what he has said, and like you said, Nigeria is not ready for this, but we hope that in the nearest future, as we take it one step at a time, we'll be able to achieve and attain to this level. We sincerely hope. There are times I say to my children that maybe this digital age, maybe all these things we're embracing will come to full-fledged by the time you guys are adults. But we are trying now to squeeze ourselves into it. And I'm hoping that I won't be left behind, you know. Thank you very much for that, sir. So my next question goes to Mr. Olorunfemi Omotayo. Mr. Olorunfemi Omotayo, I hope you're here. Now, what skills and tools, thank you, sir. What skills and tools must educators master to be able to help our children transition into full-fledged, flourishing digital natives?
All right, thank you very much. I believe you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, the first thing that needs to happen, and what I personally will always refer to as the first skill, every teacher, every educator, every person involved in building and training the next generation will need to learn is the skill of lifelong learning. Every educator must become a lifelong learner. In fact, you cannot play in the education space if you are not a lifelong learner. You cannot survive here. In fact, in the long run, you will either, the rule is either you evolve or you die. The reason why I'm starting this way is because many a times people places emphasis on tools. You need to know that out there are myriads and hundreds and maybe even thousands of different tools, different platforms and all of that. You cannot learn everything. So this is where context, number one, comes into place. And then number two, peculiarity also comes into place. Okay, so but before we begin to look at tools and skill, the first and most important skill is the skill of lifelong learning. That said, now the next thing is we need to look at what are the aptitudes, what are the skill sets and abilities and capabilities the learners need to have for the 21st century. And you discover that when we look in that direction, we begin to talk about what some people will call the 4 C's: creativity, critical thinking, communication, you know, and then other skills like problem solving, innovation, you know, and the likes. Now, our teachers themselves need to learn to themselves must become skillful in these competencies. So our teachers must become critical thinkers, because if you can't think critically, how do I teach another student? How do I teach my Nella to be critical thinkers? Because the missing gap many a time is in the capacities of our teachers. So they themselves must have this competence. So for skills, they must become critical thinkers. They must become creative. You know, they must love learning and must not be afraid of failing and making mistakes. Because many times why teachers don't try out is they don't want to fail. They don't want to look like as if they don't know. So they want to hold on to that thing they've always known. So they must not be afraid of failing. Okay, they must become problem solvers. All right, these are skills. Then lastly, when it comes to tools, like I said earlier on, there's so many tools out there. So what do I do? What educators will need to now do is to look at what are the tools that are peculiar to the situation and scenario and environment where I found myself. For example, taking into peculiarity a country like Nigeria, definitely there's some tools we cannot use in our maybe public schools and all of that. Not because perhaps maybe the teacher do not even have that capacity, but simply because we don't have the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure to make that work. So the teacher will need to now look at, okay, what can I do that based on what is available to us now, what are the things I can learn that can now make my students still at the same time get these competencies? And then that is what will now determine the tools you go for that you need to learn so that you can reach your learners where they are. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you very much, sir. You said something about being a lifelong learner, and that is very true. We hope our teachers are hearing. We hope what will get to some teachers, see, because the ability to keep learning, unlearning, and relearning is a strong point when it comes to being relevant in the 21st century. And we want to pray and hope that God will grant our teachers the ability, the opportunities, and the capacity to keep improving on themselves so that they can help our students more. Thank you so much for that, sir. My next question goes to Mrs. Toyin Idowu. I'd like to ask, what roles are parents expected to play in educating the total child in the digital age? What's the role of parents in educating our children in the digital age? Mrs. Toyin Idowu, over to you, ma'am. Is Mrs. Toyin Idowu here? You need to unmute your mic, ma'am. Okay.
I didn't unmute. Sorry about that. Thank you for that. Parents, first of all, need to realize that they are the first teachers. And because they are teaching, they're imparting knowledge, they have to learn by themselves. Like what the last speaker said, parents also have to embrace that culture of continuous learning. Because that is the easiest way to have a disconnect between you and your child. If you are operating in the analog age, you're in the service lane, meanwhile your child is on the expressway of life. There's no way you can catch up with each other. So as you have to learn those skills. You have to know, for instance, in the world of today, a parent that cannot use WhatsApp, which is the most basic one, is left out of a lot of things. Nowadays, our children hardly talk. Even when they're in the same room, they are chatting, which is why many families now have family WhatsApp group. So when a member has...
At least we can keep talking.
Exactly. If that is the way we can connect to them, let us store that line. So a parent that cannot use WhatsApp is left out of things. If you cannot do video calls, if you cannot make video calls, you're left out. You have to learn Instagram and all those, as basic as it may sound, there are many people that can't use it.
Yes.
So as a parent, you have to equip yourself. You have to equip yourself, not just even with technology, even outside technology, you have to equip yourself with their language, with their moods, with their everything, with their culture generally. And technology, their technological culture is what comes into play as a parent.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. You know, especially for parents that have teenagers, you have to understand and speak their language. You know, it's not just about Instagram now, there's TikTok, there's Snapchat, there's everything. Before you know it, they hide behind those things. They'll give you their phone. I need to be able to navigate or even know what they're doing. So we pray and we beg our parents to please get somebody to teach you, get somebody to expose you to some basic things. You know, not like your daughter will drop her phone and she'll be like, Mommy cannot even navigate or even know what is happening on this word. Every parent has to make sure that we're tech savvy, we understand what is going on and we can speak their language. Thank you so much for that, ma'am. Mr. Sho Olufolaji, I have a question for you, sir. What does an early exposure to tech do for students? You know, from your experience with the students at Calvary Arrows, can you share what is needed to develop a health STEM digital program in schools, homes, and alternative learning spaces? Over to you, Mr. Olufolaji.
Thank you very much. And actually, you know, talking about the exposure, actually, you know, when we started talking about Reimagine education and I was invited, I was so excited. I got talking with one of the organizers at some point, and he had seen that I did homeschooling for my children and he got interested, and then he had come around and seen what happened, got to know what happened with our students in Calvary. And again, if I may go to what Mr. Odole said, there's a lot about purpose, there's a lot about passion, there's a lot about vision that gives you a mission. Just like, you know, some people are asking questions about limitations of the environment. Yes, they are right. But again, like he said, Calvary Arrows College is located somewhere in Benue State called Boko, where you might not find on the map properly. Yes, and when we started Calvary Arrows back in 2005, there was no network here. There was no electricity here. So when he's talking about electricity not being available for some students and they're making it, and as I'm speaking to you, some of those students are on scholarship, they are doing their PhD as I speak to you right now in different countries in the world, from the University of Toronto to Tech in Russia to different schools. You understand? Now, so but the issue is first and foremost it's a parent public government partnership. It's a parent, are we following me? It's a parent
yes, sir.
Public partnership. It's a private sector involved partnership. And then, you know, again, part of what I see that is critical, it's the teacher. Now, I'm speaking, he was speaking as a parent. I'm speaking both as a parent and a teacher. Now, whereas for him, because that's the only end he has experienced as a parent, he felt, look, it's difficult to give the responsibility of raising my children to someone to raise for me, and I'll be sure they are doing the right thing. Now, but for us, I'm a teacher, not because I have to be a teacher. I'm a teacher by choice. I'm a teacher because for me, the greatest of men are not those that make money, they are those that make men. I'm a teacher because I want to shape the future. I'm a teacher because I want to be where I can remake life. And so for us, I know that this needs to be practical. So I'll just share briefly some of our few experiences and all that. So for us, technology started here, and we are where we are today, starting very small. I can remember back in 2007, we started with projects where we make wooden torchlights. Remember the old torchlight bulbs? Some of us might know them. Those old filament torchlights before this LED bulb came around, that you scroll in and uses Tiger batteries in the back of the torchlights and all that. There were no rechargeables in those days and all that. But you know, it was all about passion. It was all about making things real, making things touchable. And that's the challenge I see with the education for us. That's the challenge with the education for us in Nigeria. Making things real, making things touchable. Now we started from those kind of little projects. We grew. Things got better. We got more knowledge. We were desperate. There was no internet here. So we'll go travel some kilometers to where there's internet, carry the desktop along, go and do overnight, download resources and all that, bring it back to the village and get the children start learning programming. As I speak to you today, some of those students are CEOs of companies. They are employers of labor. Cyberclick in Lagos is one of such companies. Mounted Wing is one of such companies raised by such students that got affected by this. Are you following me? And that's the future for Nigeria. And so for me, it was a vision then that gradually is becoming a reality. Explore Semi is a digital learning platform for young people funded by MasterCard and University of Toronto. It's one of such students that started Explore Semi.
Fantastic.
Are you getting what I'm saying? So there's that possibility that exists if we are passionate teachers. Now, for the Nigerian sector, where we don't really have so much being given back to teachers and all that, it's again about purpose. It's again about seeing the future. It's again about seeing those young little things, not as those little things, but as the change agents of tomorrow. It's again seeing the leaders in them, seeing the possibilities, the inventors, the innovators, and pouring out your life for them. It's sacrifice, just like the Oduwole was saying. It's about sacrifice. Sorry, it looks as if we don't have time to say a lot.
Yes, our time is almost up. And Mr. Gideon is here. Thank you very much. You're welcome, sir. And I have two questions for Mr. Gideon, and he would answer my questions before we end the session. So, quick one, sir. I'm going to bring the two questions together, and I would really want you to help me answer them as one. Okay, so the first question is, how has the digital age changed our childhood? And the second question is, in teaching our children how to navigate the rapidly moving digital environment, how do we address this fundamental question? Should we teach our children though they have two lives? Meaning, should our children have different life online to the one they have offline? So I'm going to take two questions again. How has digital age changed childhood? And then, should we teach our children the difference between, or should we teach them like they have two lives, online life, offline life? How do we balance these things? Over to you, Mr. Gideon, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Really, I must confess that I want to strongly opine that technology has actually stolen childhood when you look at it. You know, because we could no longer see a lot of children playing on the streets. They are now all glued to their cell phones and tablets instead of playing with other children. They would rather, you know, when you look at it, they would rather stay in their rooms, you know, addicted to online games. So I would say, in a way, that I opine that technology has actually stolen childhood. You know, another thing is that there is actually a paradigm shift in childhood experience. You know, nature has been replaced with what I can call picture. You know, a sense of the way I see it, a sense of community that we all enjoyed as a child is gradually giving way to individuality. You know, to a large extent, we will see that. Let me confess that when we look at the Digi child experience, it can be so sad and so sweet, you know, in a way, you know, when we look at it. And another important thing here is this, you know, technology to a large extent has changed even the physical child. You know, there are physical changes. For example, many children no longer get the daily hour of exercise. We have a lot of sleep disorders now. Spine surgeons have reported that there is increased problem that has to do with back pain, and so there is technology has actually affected even the physical feature of children, and to a large extent, when you look at even apart from physical changes, you know, rewiring of the brain, I believe that technology is actually, it has affected the child even when we look at the brain itself. You know, many of them are structured around, when you look at what we have in video games today, many of these video games are structured around what I call reward loops, where there's autoplay and you have to go again. And that has, you know, to a large extent has affected even the brain of the child. To answer your second question, man, to answer the second question, because I can see that we don't really have time on our side. It's so funny, and it's so, you know, it's so painful when we experience the double standard life that people live. I think the key to profiting the digital experience is balance and originality. You know, it's very sad what is happening, particularly on Facebook, where the person is different from the real person. You know, and it's also high time we began to have what I call digital citizenship, you know, entrenched in our curriculum. You know, it's important because when we look at it, without this, we just discover that there's a lot of anomalies, you know, going on among these children. So I want to use this opportunity. I think this meeting is an opportunity for me to say that we need a digital culture in Nigeria. We need a statement of digital culture, a national digital culture. Children do not need to live with double standards, you know, developing two different personalities. I think one thing we have not done enough in Nigeria is the creation of a national social home education digital culture. We definitely need this. But this could be at the level of the home, at the level of the school, and even nationally. Why I admit that we have some restrictions, you know, in schools vis-a-vis the use of digital whatever. But then it's still important for us as a country to have what I think a national digital culture, a digital education that exists in many other countries.
Yes, sir.
You know, this is very important. So this balance will actually bring a kind of originality. And the issue of double living has really encouraged living a fake life, which is something that we have to really address. Social vices such as impersonation, negative imitation, and what I can call undue rivalry and overindulgence, all this stem out of this negative, you know, double standard. So I think it is important to use this forum to advocate for a national digital culture. I'll be very happy if this could be our post-conference idea, or post-conference pursuit. This is where to begin. Why we may not be able to totally eradicate devices that has come. We can prevent it.
Thank you very
We can
much.
definitely
Wow, this is
prevent.
fantastic. I want to appreciate all our panelists. I want to thank you so much for contributing from the wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much, Mrs. Toyido. Mr. Gideon, that was powerful. I'm sure the organizers have heard you, and this might be what you just mentioned will be part of the post-conference project that we'll take up as a community. Thank you so much, Mr. Oluwafemi Omotayo. We're so grateful. Mr. Shen Olufajimi, thank you so much for your contribution. We want to say a big thank you on behalf of the organizers. Thank you for everyone that has listened. Thank you for all your contributions. On behalf of the organizers, I want to say thank you so much and God bless you. We're going to be going back to the main session now, and I want to thank everyone for being a part of this. Have a very wonderful evening. My name is Oyenike, and I'm honored to be your host. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Hello everyone, we can click on the leave button if you are using a mobile device to join the main session. Thank you for joining this breakout session.